My name is Michael Maloney, and I am your independent candidate for Suffolk County District Attorney. There is an urgent need for reform of our criminal justice system, but this reform needs to be incorporated responsibly. I know how the system works, and I believe in tough enforcement. The criminal justice system was never built to treat victims of poverty, addiction, and mental health. But let's get real. That's exactly what's happening. I am for progressive reform. I have been my entire career, and I will continue to do so as the county's top prosecutor. I will continue to defend the most vulnerable. My name is Michael Maloney, and I approve this message because experience matters.
Hi, and thanks for watching. My name is Barrett, and welcome back to a brand new edition of the Barrett Report. You know, there's so much out there with elections right now. I mean, every time you turn on your television, there's another politician or someone else trying to get you out to a poll or get you out to vote for them. And I needed to have someone on my show that really I think is very unique and special, and I think we should feel lucky to have him running here in Massachusetts. His name is Michael Maloney. I want to let you get to know him, and I'm going to jump into some of the issues in just a minute. But Michael Maloney, welcome to the show.
Don, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate your time.
All right, yeah, thanks for being here.
It's great to see you again.
For the audience that is out there that maybe is not familiar with you, where did you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So I'm 38 years old. I live in Boston. I grew up in Plainville, Massachusetts, which prior to the casino being put in a few years ago, very few people actually ever heard of it. You know, I graduated Providence College in 2002. I graduated New England Law in 2006. Right after graduating, I hung up my own shingle. I've actually never done the corporate thing. I've been practicing criminal law as a defense attorney for 10 years. I've also been a business...
So you're a criminal defense attorney.
To this day, I actually still have clients right now. I'm running on the independent ticket, so I actually didn't take any time off from my practice for campaigning. So to say I've been busy over the past 6 months would be an enormous understatement. But like I said, yeah, I still have clients to this day.
Now, let me ask, why run as an independent?
But actually, 62% of voters in Massachusetts are independents. I'm one of them.
You know, we have over 10,000 people that watch our show, cannabis users in Massachusetts. And we have people that broadcast. We broadcast it all over the country. But at least 10,000 people across Massachusetts. And I want to talk about your background in getting some of the cannabis or marijuana reform passed in Massachusetts, because you were a proponent in that.
I am a former owner, one of the initial principals of Canacare Docs, which is the largest medical marijuana evaluation facility in the country.
So if you want to get your medical card.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I actually sold that company in December of last year. I'm actually the owner of CBD Thera as well. Again, I told you I'm an incredibly strong advocate of both recreational and medical.
Right. Well, the CBD is you know, I work with a group obviously called the Green Nurses, and 80% of the people that they talk to, you know, they're medical patients, and they don't want to get high, and they want to get the benefits, and that's where the CBD products, you know, come into play.
Yeah, so CBD is the second most times, 9 times out of 10 is the most prevalent compound in cannabis aside from the THC. But I got to tell you, as a criminal defense background, still as a criminal defense attorney, I see an enormous amount of people using CBD for medical benefits, from anxiety, from stress, from relief, again, without the psychoactive components, but also used as a mechanism, as an exit drug. People use cannabis and CBD specifically to help break the addiction to more hardcore substances, heroin, pills. With what's going on with the opioid epidemic right now, you know, I'm not going to pretend cannabis is the end-all be-all. It's certainly not. But used under medical supervision, it is an enormous tool, so to speak, to help people break addiction. And it's actually, there are 3 states in the United States right now that prescribe cannabis as an exit drug. And as district attorney, I can tell you that testing positive for cannabis would never yield someone in violation of the probation. Like I said, I've been an enormous proponent of it since Article 12 passed, and I'm happy to be part of the industry to this day.
It's interesting when I look at the statistics that are out there, I mean, really across the board, where people have access to legal cannabis, that opioid deaths or deaths related to opioids are down 25%.
Immediately.
Now you're 38, 39?
I'm 38 years old, sir.
38 years old. Okay.
That's right.
So I'm 43. So, right in that time, same age bracket. Where,
Absolutely.
a lot of the kids that I grew up with, and I grew up in Saugus, were addicted to opioids or Percocets, or they started with Vicodin, and then Percocets, and then the Oxycontins came out.
Don't get me started about the pharmaceutical industry. It's disgusting.
And then they're $80 a piece, and these kids have no money. And then all of a sudden, someone goes, "Here's a $5 bag of dope."
Yeah.
And now they're a heroin addict, and they're in a really vicious cycle at that point.
Well,
and it happens to so many people. And I talk to a lot of doctors, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but a lot of doctors out there, you almost have to have terminal cancer today, or have your every bone in your body broken for them to give you an opioid, to go there and get Percocets at the hospital today. So they had all these people on them, and they took all these people off of them.
Correct.
And what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to just go get Advil. They have a physical dependency, and the only thing that's going to help that is going out, unfortunately, heroin. And that's why I don't see people dying from Percocets. They say the opioid epidemic. Well, they're not dying of Percocets. They're dying of heroin, as far as I can see.
Agreed.
For the most part.
I can't tell you how many clients I've represented that literally became addicted. I mean, this is tragic. It's sad but true. But they received a prescription for their doctor, or actually, I have a client that just received a prescription from their dentist. They're having teeth pulled. The prescription ran out, and it wouldn't be filled by the dentist or the doctor. And fast forward 3 weeks later, they're hooked. I mean, people. This is
accidental addicts.
An accidental addict that happens all the time.
Yeah. So if someone commits a crime, and I know all crimes are different. I mean, most people you talk to that are in jail, they committed their crime when they were under the influence. Or I mean, is there a better solution than just locking them up?
There absolutely is. So that's actually one of the primary platforms that my campaign is based on. What I mean by that, Don, is treatment over incarceration for non-violent addicts. Again, I from a 30,000-foot view, if you will, I really am running my administration. My administration will be looked at. Is this someone that can be treated? First of all, is this someone that has hurt the community or is hurting an individual? If so, then that person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That is not the majority. The overwhelming majority are suffering from conditions of mental health, suffering from conditions of poverty, or suffering from conditions of addiction. And if we can spend a fraction of what we're spending on incarceration, which is close to $60,000 per year, and spend a fraction of that on treatment in lieu of incarceration, that's really how we address the problem, and at least cut those numbers down. Really, break the cycle of 12 months after someone is released from prison, 72% of the time they're being right back in. And if we start treating these people as opposed to just locking them up, letting them out, that's really how we're going to mitigate these numbers and actually address the problem.
Right. We have to break the chain somehow, but I don't think locking them up with other hardcore drug addicts and other people that have committed other crimes is the way to go.
It's certainly not, because people go into jail, they don't come out with the problem is not gone. Right now when someone becomes incarcerated, I mean, it's punitive and it should be. But when the individual comes out, the underlying issue that resulted in them being incarcerated is still there, and it gets worse. People leave prison having become more hardened in their stance, having become more savvy in the way they're committing crimes, and most importantly, the underlying addiction remains.
Right. When are there programs in prisons today?
Well, there are very few programs in prison today. I've actually reached out with Sheriff Tompkins.
There's more drugs in prison today.
That's the sad truth of it. There are more drugs in prison than there are programs afforded to inmates. There are a lot of actually opportunities, and actually there's quite a few other states that have implemented programs while individuals are incarcerated to actually afford them treatment, as opposed to just being locked up. Again, like I said, I've reached out with Sheriff Tompkins, but I'm licensed in 4 states right now. There are programs and the mechanisms that we can incorporate. We're not reinventing the wheel to try to solve this problem. There are practices that we can incorporate from around this state, from different counties. There are practices that we can incorporate from our neighboring states and different jurisdictions to help mitigate this problem, and that's what we really need to do immediately.
Right. If you're watching right now, we've been talking to Michael Maloney. He's been an attorney here in Massachusetts for 10 years. He's running for Suffolk County District Attorney. And if you're watching and if you've never met him before, go to his website. Just type in Michael Maloney. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can go in and you can vote independent.
That's correct.
Doesn't matter.
100%.
I'm registered as a Republican. Just because some people, you have to realize, some people don't know that.
You know,
I know that. I asked the question,
Mhm.
but a lot of people don't know. I'm a Democrat. I can go in and vote for an independent.
It's funny. I've been campaigning for about 6.5, 7 months at this point, and I got that question. Hey, I'm a Democrat. Can I vote for I like what you're saying, but can I vote for you? I'm a Democrat. And my jaw, it dropped the first time. I didn't realize, but you're absolutely right. People just oftentimes don't realize that they have the ability to vote. I don't even mean across the line, but partially across the line to an independent. At this level, and what I mean by that, as opposed to a national level or a state level, we're dealing strictly with Suffolk County, which is all of Boston, Winthrop, Chelsea, and Revere. And I think at this level, I am of the opinion, having met with a lot of constituents, having shaken a lot of hands, that people are amenable, people are open to the idea of voting for an individual as opposed to blindly voting party. But again, one of the biggest variables that I have in running as an independent is strictly, disseminating my message. Everyone that I relay my message to, I'm met with positive feedback, but without having the microphone of the Democratic Party behind me, it is what it is. I'm out there knocking on doors every day. I'm shaking hands every day.
I see it everywhere. But how do you get people to the polls? I mean, it's a midterm election, right? I mean, it's one of those things. It's how do you get people to the polls? I know every cannabis user I know is voting for you, but getting them out to the polls and telling them how important each vote is. We always talk about how important votes are, but I want you to talk about it for a second because each vote is so very important.
Well, we're talking, like I said, it's the four towns: Boston, Winthrop, Chelsea, and Revere. So we're not even talking about the statewide. The entire, we're probably going to have 150, 200,000 votes total. And you're absolutely right. I think we saw in Middlesex County during the midterm, there was one campaign where the difference between the winner and the loser was just a few hundred votes. I think that's a case in point where literally every vote matters. We're not talking about electoral college here. We're talking about individual votes.
Right. So, I mean, get out there and vote. Bring your friends to the booth. Get out there and vote on November 6th because it's so very important.
It's incredibly important.
And it's so very important. Especially because of your opponent. And I want to talk about that in just a second. We haven't even jumped into that. All right, let's talk about for a second the 800-pound gorilla in the room, so to speak. Yes. It's been in the newspaper recently. And
I was there were some articles that came out recently, and one of the lowest points in my personal life was I'm running for public office. I didn't have any false expectations that this was not going to come up, but in hindsight, I certainly could have been more proactive about addressing it.
But it's all public information.
It's all public information. I'm not trying to hide the ball here. I was married, got engaged after 9 weeks. Rushed into things. Beautiful, intelligent woman. We actually, my ex-wife and I, we have a cordial, respectful rapport to this day. We still occasionally chat. I made a bad decision to drown those sorrows in alcohol for a single night. Came back and called every name in the book. Certainly never got physical, but I was angry. I acted in anger, and I made a mistake.
Right. I mean, you shared with me personally some things that happened, which I think anyone in that particular situation would be would be extremely upset.
And it doesn't justify my behavior.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But that was years ago. Like I said, my ex and I, we've made it work. I'm here because I want to focus on the issues. My divorce from 3 or 4 years ago, we have, unfortunately, shootings have gone up. Crime on police has gone up. Theft, violence has gone up. I mean, there are real issues here that matter much more so than a breakup of mine 5 years ago.
And that brings me to your opponent, Rachel Rollins.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lawless. Basically, I was reading through the 15 different laws or things that she doesn't want to prosecute. She wants to decline to prosecute.
That's right.
Okay, now
It's kind of ironic considering she's running for the top prosecutorial job in the county.
I just want. I mean, does she want nobody? She doesn't want anybody to get in trouble for anything. I mean, when I was reading through this, I used the word. You maybe not heard it before, but I used the word stupefied. I mean, this is like I read through this list, and I'm going to read it for the people. Maybe we can bring it up on the screen. But I was stupefied. I was like, this is like so stupid. I just like couldn't believe it.
My jaw dropped.
Yeah, declines to prosecute. This is her list that she's declining to prosecute. And now this is Rachel Rollins. And bring up a picture of her so they can get a good look at her. She is going to decline to prosecute on this list drug dealing. Okay, so if you're anywhere in the country, you want to come to Massachusetts, if you're a drug dealer, don't worry about it. You're not going to get prosecuted. Come to Massachusetts. Trespassing. How many property owners, business owners, okay, someone comes on your property, okay, and you're not going to prosecute them? I mean, I can understand a warning. I understand restraining orders, but not prosecuting somebody for trespassing?
Crazy.
It's
Absolutely
just
crazy.
I mean, this stuff is bananas. Okay, let me just keep going. Shoplifting. Okay, one of the things I read online, it says, "Oh, this was great." It's one of the comments. Oh, if I could find it. Oh, I will now be doing all my shopping in Boston. I used to do a lot in tax-free New Hampshire. Now it's going to be all free.
Not just tax-free, it's
due to
retail
Rachel
free.
Rollins. You guys come in and try to steal everything. If not, hey, don't worry, we're not going to prosecute you.
And then also, when you're arrested, the assault and battery on a police officer resisting arrest also won't be prosecuted.
Oh yeah, no, we're just getting started.
Just getting started.
This is a list of 15, and any one of these that you want to elaborate on, please, because I had trouble understanding. That's why I was stupefied. Okay, larceny under $250. Okay, not. I guess that's not one of the bigger ones on the list. Disorderly conduct or disturbing the peace.
Now, listen, these aren't necessarily crimes where people would always be incarcerated. And chances are they wouldn't always be incarcerated. But the idea of not holding them accountable, the idea of not prosecuting, I mean, there's a world of difference. And, I think this actually goes, my opponent has actually never had a jury trial, never had a bench trial, never argued a motion to suppress or motion to dismiss in criminal court. Her experience consists of about 4.5, 5 months, 21 years ago. I think a blanket statement like this really just screams of someone that doesn't actually have experience in the criminal court. When push comes to shove, if you've never had a trial, if you've never argued a motion, I mean, it's crazy to think that you can incorporate reform. It's crazy to think that you can run in office. Could you imagine the chief surgeon at any one of the biggest hospitals in Mass having never actually performed a surgery? I mean, that is literally what we're talking about here. The individual applying for the top prosecutorial job in the county is saying, I'm not going to prosecute 15 charges. And by the way, I've never actually had a trial. I mean, that messaging, that projection, that theory would never carry over, would never work in any industry. And the fact that we're having
what has she been doing?
Well, I know
what does she do?
She hasn't actually had an employment for quite some time. I think she's been unemployed for about 3 or 4 years. She did work at the MBTA. She was appointed to that position. We've had like I said.
You're a very successful independent business person, 38 years old, multiple companies. Jumped into the cannabis industry when you saw that was going to bloom and
absolutely
that
bloom, no pun intended.
And bloom, grow. Bud, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. So my background is, like I said, I saw some opportunities in 2011. And that wasn't my first venture in towards business. I've started companies. I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was 25, 26 years old. I was starting companies actually while I was in law school.
Why politics? Why is this your first time in politics?
Yeah, I actually
Why?
I never intended to go into politics. I got involved in criminal law because I was very drawn towards, trying trials, jury trials, that kind of thing. But I got to tell you, very quickly after I got involved in this industry, Don, I saw patterns emerge. I had clients this year alone overdose more times than I can count. Individuals that have taken their own life by accident and on purpose. I become so immune to it. I've seen it so long with so many people, lives torn apart, that I see a real opportunity based on my experience, as a criminal defense attorney, based on my business experience, to incorporate reform. Not reform that says, hey, we're just not going to prosecute anything, but incorporate reform that actually mitigates some of the underlying issues, that mitigates the damage caused
Doesn't
by
sweep it under the rug to deal with it later.
acknowledges the
Let's put things in
problem
place.
head on and doesn't just kind of kick the can down the road. That's why I'm running. I see an opportunity to effectuate change.
Terrific. I mean, I want to go through just a couple more
Please.
because the breaking and entering really gets to me. We're not going to prosecute people anymore. I mean, according to your opponent, Rachel Rollins, she doesn't want to prosecute people for breaking and entering.
Shocking. I mean, how can I?
Maybe
I don't know
she
what else to
owns
say.
stock in a security company. I don't understand. I mean, imagine someone breaking and entering in your business and you cannot prosecute them.
Ludicrous. So I told you about CBD Thera. Last year alone, I experienced quite a bit of shoplifting. The idea, anyone that's ever owned a business, anyone that's ever had a friend or a family that's had, I'm not talking some major corporation, I'm talking a small business. People that are putting food on the table for their family. Not people that are out there making millions.
$50, $100 makes a big difference. Someone comes in and takes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, let's not have false expectations here. Not everyone that is prosecuted should go to jail. Not everyone that is prosecuted should have a guilty conviction. But to not hold these people accountable, to not hold them responsible for what they've done, there's a theory called broken windows. And what that means in layman's terms is if you let the small stuff go, then the big stuff gets worse. Because it creates a system where people think they can get away with a little, give them an inch, take a mile. Again, I think I certainly understand the intention of what Ms. Rollins was looking to do. But the fact that, someone would be brazen enough to just say, hey, to heck with it, we're just not going to prosecute any of this. It really just screams of someone that has no experience in this industry. And to go back to it, the same principle would never work in a business, would never work in a hospital, meaning the chief prosecutor or the chief physician or the chief CEO to say that they've actually never done this and never had any practical experience. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster.
Right. It's like she's an attorney, right? But she's really never been a practicing attorney.
Never been a practicing attorney in court.
In court.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Destruction of property.
The list goes on and on. The list goes on and on.
No, she doesn't want to prosecute people. I mean, this is what I mean when I was. I mean, sorry, my printer was out, but he'll bring it up on the screen. I was stupefied. Destruction of property, threats, right, or something like that. If you go to your work, your coworker comes in and says, "I'm going to come back and blow your brains out," or something like that.
Not going to prosecute.
No prosecution.
That's right. Listen, if someone violates the law, if they will be prosecuted. If someone's threatening, they will be prosecuted. But I think the list actually gets a lot worse when you get a little bit further down. What I really find shocking is, no matter all these charges, right? Now, police get called, right? Could you imagine being on the receiving end of shoplifting or on larceny or fill in the blank, and police come and
they arrest me,
and now we're going to try to arrest you, and now they can fight back, and they're not going to be charged. Crazy. Look, because resisting arrest is on that list as well.
Resisting arrest.
Correct. Now, can you talk about
folks? Just pull up her picture. Just pull up her picture. I just want to. Okay. I just want to read through the list. I went through them pretty quickly, but pull up the picture, okay? She's going to decline to prosecute, according to her platform right now, drug dealing, trespassing, shoplifting, larceny under $250, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, receiving stolen property. It doesn't matter if you receive it or you steal it.
It doesn't matter either way.
Either way.
Take what you want.
Minor driving offenses. What are minor driving offenses?
It could be driving on a suspended license. It could be, fill in the blank. I mean, there's a million different.
Right. Why do people need a license?
Right. And well, then you also have people whose license was suspended for other felonies. And so to say that you're not going to prosecute minor, again, I understand what the intent was.
Right.
But to issue that blanket statement,
right.
I mean, there are so many collateral repercussions that
it's so vague.
Too vague.
I mean, too vague. But breaking and entering is not.
That's not too vague.
That's not too vague to me. Someone breaks and enters in my home or my business, and I can't prosecute that person. What's going to stop them from doing it again?
What's going to stop them from doing it again is when I win on November 6th, I'll be charging this.
Threats, drug possession, resisting arrest, destruction of property. I mean, really, the list goes on and on. This one was a couple comments I just wanted to read. Congratulations, Boston. The inmates are now running the city. This is what I was saying. Remember, voters, when a crazy dude at work threatens to blow your head off, it's no big deal, according to her. Okay, I mean, it's a risky plan, and to me, I think people, if they come out and get to know you, I think the decision is it's a no-brainer. You just have to get your name and your face out there, because putting you next to her.
I'm really running. I'm focusing my whole campaign on the issues. I'm not scared of the issues. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing criminal defense. I've been practicing helping people at some of the lowest points of their life for a decade. I'm not scared of the issues. You want to talk about practical solutions? You want to talk about issues facing juveniles? You want to talk about gun issues? Let's talk about it. Ms. Rollins is really kind of taking a little bit different approach, because when push comes to shove, she can't talk about the issues because she's never played in this arena. She doesn't have any experience. And that's really why you see people pushing back on me, because, I had a rough divorce. I'm not perfect.
Well, especially at this day and age.
I'm here. I'm controlling my message. Here's what my platform's about. Here's how I'm going to make a difference. We all have backgrounds. We have all had stories in the past, but let's focus on what really matters. Let's focus on the safety of the community.
But Michael Maloney, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, my name is Donald Barrett, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us.
My name is Michael Maloney, and I am your independent candidate for Suffolk County District Attorney. There is an urgent need for reform of our criminal justice system. But this reform needs to be incorporated responsibly. I know how the system works, and I believe in tough enforcement. The criminal justice system was never built to treat victims of poverty, addiction, and mental health. But let's get real. That's exactly what's happening. I am for progressive reform. I have been my entire career, and I will continue to do so as the county's top prosecutor. I will continue to defend the most vulnerable. My name is Michael Maloney, and I approve this message because experience matters.